All right, I guess let's start with the Corsets or Cages stuff. So like, I guess like the first question I have is like, how did you first get into like music in general, like singing?
Uh, there was an accident. I I never really intended to. I hung around people that played music. I loved like when I first heard Under Oath, they're only chasing safety.
Yeah.
That was really kind of what, I want to do that, but I don't know how to do that because, the town I lived in, which is Frankfort, Kentucky, there wasn't a big,
Music
there
scene.
wasn't a big music scene like that. So I kind of went to Lexington, which is a town about 30 miles away, and met some people, through mutual friends that played music. And I just went to their practice, and I they played an Under Oath song, and I tried out, and then that was really it. It was just kind of an accident. We were just messing around, and I never sang before. I'm super shy. I played jazz. I played jazz bass and jazz band. That's about as musical as I get.
All right. How old were you when this happened? This was must have been like years ago, I assume.
19. So it was
19.
about 2000, 2005, 2006. I was about 18 or 19.
All right. Is that how you like met everyone in the band initially? Was like how many members were there at the time?
Well, there was actually a first version of Corsets Arcages.
Really?
Completely different people, minus me. I played bass actually. I didn't sing, and it was it was kind of bad. But through that we met those guys in Lexington, and we started, falling apart. People lose interest, and before we know it, I got a call from one of the original members that I used to play with saying, "Hey, I met some new guys, and would you like to come, maybe play keyboard or something?" I was like, "Sure, sounds fun." And I show up, and these guys are super talented. It's the basically the Emerosa group that you would know, like Lucas, ER, Jordan, guys like that, and they kind of blew me away. I wanted to be a part of it immediately.
So which
So
one
I
was
mean,
the which member was the one that contacted you?
Mike Bryant.
Mike Bryant. All right.
Yeah, that's who I originally played music with was Mike Bryant.
So he was like in that before Corsets or Cages
Yeah,
band
yeah,
thing.
he was the pre-Corsets or Cages. It sounded like a Treyu, not gonna
Really?
lie.
That's
Yeah,
that's interesting. That's different
very,
from what I from
very.
what they're like now. I don't know if you've like listened to any of like their newer stuff.
It's perfect what they play now. I mean, it's exactly what they wanted to sound like. I'm happy for them. They have the sound they always wanted.
That's good. Yeah, I just saw those Mike Myers masks you have back there.
Oh, yeah, horror fan.
Yeah, I can see that. Like I've seen some stuff off your Instagram. It seems like you're big into horror, older horror stuff, slasher films or stuff.
Yeah, I kind of, I grew up with that stuff, and I'm I'm 30, so I was probably about 5 when I saw those movies, which I don't know if that's the best thing, but I
I don't
always
know.
loved those movies.
See, I was like, I always wanted to get into them, but like, I grew up in like a and I kind of, all right, when I was 5, I was a little weird. Um, so like, I learned about like the rating system when I was like 5 or 6, something like that, right? Because I was
Yeah.
watching like, the main reason was because I was getting tired of like watching like Terminator 2 or something, and then my mom would keep blocking out my eyes
Oh
every like five
no.
minutes when something would happen, and it was like I want to
Yeah.
see the full movie. And so in my head, I was like, all right, the easiest answer is for me to learn what this rating system means, what these letters mean behind the movies. And then like I was like 5 or 6 or something, and I learned like, oh, PG means you can watch it with parent, PG-13, you can watch it by yourself if you're 13 or stuff. And then I taught that to my
Right.
mom, hoping that like that would kind of make it easier for me to watch like PG-13 movies or whatever. But that just like it did the complete opposite effect, where like she just didn't let me watch anything that wasn't like PG or G. So I didn't see any like slasher films until I was like 12, but by then it was a little late. So like now, like I like the horror movies, like with like the atmospheric horror stuff, but anything like gory just kind of gets me super queasy because of that whole thing.
I don't like gore. Like the Saw movies, they kind of not too big into them. I just kind of like kookiness, like campy,
No,
kind of
yeah, it's
funny
awesome. It's awesome. You know.
stuff like that.
So yeah, like I don't, like I was saying, or it's good, or anything scary. Like I don't know, Psycho, anything like atmospherically scary. That's what I enjoy. Gore, not so much. But
Oh yeah, I understand that.
getting back, I guess, into like the Corsets or Cages stuff. So like, Mike contacted you and he was like, "Oh hey, we've like remade the band basically, got the band back together with new members. They asked you to sing. Um, like, is that like the first time you met all of these guys? Like
Yeah,
Lucas,
yeah.
ER, and who else was in it? At
Will
this
Sowers,
Will
he
Sowers,
played bass. Yeah, and Jordan Stewart played keyboards.
right?
But they were super nice guys, welcomed me in, let me sleep on their floor, they let me stay with them. So, um, I couldn't have asked for a better first real band. I wouldn't consider the first version of the band a real band. We didn't have any kind of structure. You know, we had more structure with, I guess, pre-Emarosa, that kind of stuff. I think we wrote way better songs, but I had no idea what I was doing. So that was a minor setback for the
Yeah,
rest of it.
I guess that makes sense. Um, so I guess that answers the second question, which is how did you guys meet and how was it formed? Third question is, were like the three demo songs you recorded with them like the only stuff you guys ever wrote together, or was there like other stuff that you guys just kind of were like, yeah, this isn't gonna work. Let's just go with these three.
There were, I mean, you heard "This Is Your Way Out."
Yep.
There were different versions of those songs. Um, we were writing those songs together. I mean, I was pretty much with them as they wrote that entire album. But directionally, I was going way heavier, and I hadn't taken to singing yet. And I was screaming more, and they're into melody, harmony, which is great. Their music was big, and a lot of dynamics. And I was like almost one step behind musically. If I would have met them a little bit later, I think it would have worked. But at the time, I didn't really know what I was doing. And did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think yeah. Those are basically the stuff you guys like kind of wrote that wasn't like recorded with you was most of the stuff, or like free versions of the stuff on "This Is Your Way Out."
Yeah, there are two or three more songs that we wrote before they changed the name Emerosa, but honestly, I couldn't find them. I can't find them. One of the songs is called Armageddon Out of Here, but it sounds completely different than the version on This Is Your Way Out. It's a completely different song.
All right, cool.
Personally, they're not very good.
I guess that kind of makes sense to why you guys never released it then.
hmm
I guess I'm gonna probably bring that name up in a minute. I'm just gonna write that off to the side. But I guess my next question is because like I think this is the one song that I hear like people brought up a lot where they actually bring you up in general, not to be like rude or anything like matter, but like
Right.
a lot of the times I'll hear like, oh, I like Utah, like This Is Your Way Out, but I prefer the Utah but I'm taller version.
Right.
So like
Right.
like how was that written? Was that like one day just kind of pumped out, or
That
did they
was the
send you
first song.
melodies or something?
No, that was just the first song we ever wrote together with that lineup, because they were
Really?
still kind of trend. Yeah, because Mike Bryant, um, as a guitar player, prefers the metal style, which is why he went to Gwen Stacy.
That makes sense. Yeah.
After leaving, and you have which is he loves ambient kind of. His favorite band's Cursive. He loves pretty noises, and you mix those two together, and you get a really weird sound. So that's what Utah was. So that was them kind of trying to figure out how to write together. So you can tell there's a difference between that and Jesus Plays a Firebird.
Yeah, it's very different.
It's the styles. Yeah, that's just them learning to write together.
And so I'm guessing that then you wrote like your vocal parts after they were like everything was recorded.
I I would sit there. I mean, I'm still learning how to. I was honestly still learning how to do it. There were points where I was like, do vocals come after? Do vocals come before? Do you just have a melody ready? And I kind of the producer we were working with kind of helped shape things, like say maybe don't do it that way, do it this way. But really,
Was that
I kind of had
what's his name?
Joey Sturgis.
Yeah, yeah. Because I remember he produced "This Is Your Way Out." So was he who you
He
were
did.
guys working with at that point?
Hmm. Yeah. But that was honestly my favorite song.
Really?
Yeah, Jesus Plays a Firebird. But their stuff they wrote after that was so much better. This Is Your Way Out. Like that style. I don't think that's what they wanted to play forever, but for the time, that was perfect because it was right when Under Oath came out with Define a Great Line, and you could have that singing and that heaviness. So I mean, it hit perfectly when they got Chris Roeder
Hmm.
in the band. They really took off then. They got the right vocalist for the right time.
Yeah, no, it's weird because I didn't honestly like I knew about you, and then I didn't know like that whole Chris Roeder period existed, and then like the next thing I knew was Relativity. Like that's how like well I was introduced like to the band like through I finished Dance Gavin Dance like I think this was back in like 2013, listening to their stuff up to that point, and then I was like, oh, Johnny was in this other band. I'm like, all right, well, this is back when I was a little butthurt that he left the band again. So I was like, all
Yeah,
right, let me listen to what he did with this band. The first thing I heard was, you know, Relativity, the Fast Shit to Say That, and I was just kind of wow. And then I was like, oh, who was in the band for this? And like the whole Utah, When I'm Taller thing came out. I heard that.
yeah,
I was like, oh, that's different. And then I heard their self-titled, and then I went on their Wikipedia page, and then I found they had like an EP, and I was like, I'd never heard of that. That was like a year down the line though. And that was very, yeah. I can kind of see like the progression from the stuff they wrote with you, the stuff they wrote with Chris, then Relativity, then their self-titled, kind of like slowly losing a bit of like the hardcore gritty edge there, getting a little
right.
softer, more melodic, I guess, over time.
I I don't think they enjoyed playing the heavy stuff as much. At first they did because that's what was popular,
Mm-hmm.
but at heart, I think that they wanted to play bigger music, like more what they wrote later on down the road. I think that's the sound that they wanted. They finally got it. It just took a little bit of work. They got Jonas on guitar. He was a perfect match with ER. So I think that's when they had Johnny, they were writing amazing music. I think that was the sound they wanted. I think from the beginning, they just had to go through phases, had to go through the trends because music changes too. What kids like change,
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Also, I guess this
and
is another question I personally have. I'm not sure if anyone else has this one. This is kind of more like me because I'll be going online and I'll hear this song like under different names. What's like the actual title for like "Too Late for Missiles"? Because I see like variations of the title and I'm never sure which one's the actual title.
it's too late for missiles. I'm switching to guns.
All right, cool. Because I've
It's
seen like different weird ones like "Too Late for Mississippi," just "Too Late for
no,
Missiles." And I'm like, I don't know. I want to correct someone, but I don't know what the actual one is myself. So I guess this
it's
kind
a
of clears
Top
that one
Gun.
up.
I'm
It's
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's a Top Gun quote. That's all.
that makes sense. Yeah.
But it was, I always loved that Top Gun quote. I like that movie a lot, so thought it would make a good song
Never
title.
actually seen it.
You know, good 80s movie. I guess
Yeah.
if you like Tom Cruise, it depends.
No, yeah, because like I like watching older movies, but I guess I'm a bit of like I don't know, gross hipster. And like if I want to watch like an older movie, I kind of like going to like a thrift store and randomly finding the VHS, buying that for like 30 cents, and then watching it on my TV, actually popping that in, as opposed to
Yeah.
like I don't know. I mean, I could buy the Blu-ray for like really cheap, but it's just to me it's more fun to like actually randomly find it, have like a movie night with a friend or something, you know?
You at least look things up. Most people don't research things, You kind of did a little bit of homework, so
Yeah,
kind of.
I try. First interview, I kind of want to make sure everything's kind of good here on this end. Um, I guess the next thing I guess should be all right, yeah, let's go to that. So when you and like the Emerosa guys, well, yeah, the Corsets Arcages slash Emerosa guys split. You and Mike Bryant, was that like simultaneously? Like you both left the band at the same time? Were you both asked to leave, or like did one of you leave and the other? How did that kind of
No,
work out?
Mike Mike just kind of left. I mean, we knew he was going to leave anyways. You can kind of tell because they stopped responding to texts or they stopped showing. He was really close to
Oh,
the Gwen
I
Stacy
lost you there for
guys.
a second. I lost you there for a second. You were saying that, yeah, you kind of knew he was going to leave the band because they.
You can tell when people stop showing up to practice
Hmm.
or just responding to texts. You can tell.
Yeah.
Um, and he's really good friends with the Gwen Stacy guys. He was a big fan anyways. So it was just I kind of saw it coming, and then when I saw a live video of them playing with him, I was like, well, okay, he's in Gwen Stacy.
Yeah.
But
Makes sense.
I was asked to leave a little later.
Was that like I'm guessing was that like after you guys had recorded everything? Like were you guys already in the studio starting to record stuff? Was this like after a few shows? Did they meet
This
Chris or something?
We met Chris. We originally wanted two vocalists, or they originally wanted two vocalists, and we were both very similar in as far as what we do.
Mhm.
Not the way we sound, but the way we do things. Um, so we were about a couple songs into recording "This Is Your Way Out," and the producer was like, "I don't really know if it's gonna work with both of them." So they had to make a decision, and I was kind of the one let go. They sent me a message maybe 2 days after Christmas because we had to go home because we were recording right around the holiday. And they kind
Mhm.
of sent me a message and let me know. Uh, it just, musically, we're going in different directions, basically, to really just, you know, chalk it up.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense if like you were I mean based off like the revival sound and stuff like that. I mean you can kind of see that you were going towards like a heavier direction and then they were kind
Yeah,
of going somewhere like not as heavy. So,
it
you
makes
know.
sense. You can't force it. If
Yeah.
it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it makes sense. I've been in like a band or two where someone just doesn't want to be in the band. They're not feeling it. The worst thing you can kind of do is like force it when it's really just not going to work.
But that's why bands break up.
Yeah.
They don't want to walk away and maybe start something new. They just kind of want to keep going with what they're going with, and instead you kind of just end up because it's like a relationship, 5 ways.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
stop communicating and it gets weird, and it's better to just be upfront always.
Yeah. I'd have to agree with that definitely. I guess that kind of leads into my next thing. So what was it like? Did you write like the lyrics for Utah yourself, or
Yeah,
did Chris write that? Okay. So like, what
I
was
did.
like that like? Because like obviously you recorded that by yourself and the demo, and the stuff that was released, right?
Right. The
Um,
melody and everything.
yeah. So what was like hearing someone else sing that? Like, did you ever like go to their shows, hear them sing it at all live, or did you just hear the recording of it?
The closer that it happened, it hurt. Like it kind of sucked to watch, but later on it was like, oh, okay, you know, it is what it is. I've seen Johnny sing the song. I've seen Chris sing the song. I've heard Johnny say the song sucks. So, I mean, it's not the greatest song ever. It's really my first song I ever sang or wrote or tried to do anything with. So I have no bad feelings towards it, but um, I'm kind of proud of it just because I never thought I could write a song. So
No, I mean, yeah, definitely. I think because a lot of times you'll hear people like talk about, well, maybe won't, but I will like on Reddit or stuff on the post-hardcore forum where they'll like randomly post either version of it, and they're like, "This is such a good song." From like, "I wish Emerosa would go back." I've heard it a few times. They're like, "Oh, I wish Emerosa would go back to writing stuff like this," or like, "I didn't know
uh,
they ever wrote metalcore or anything like that."
they
And
would die.
yeah, I definitely, I don't know, I like it. I think it's a good song. I enjoy it. I still listen to both versions whenever. Sometimes like I'll listen to Chris's or yours. I mean, I heard yours first, and then I heard Chris's. I'm like, this is very different. You know?
One had really good production, and the other one was bare bones. We went in with that. That was the first version that you heard with me was minimal production. He just kind of had to fix my vocal parts sometimes because I was either flat or sharp, or he was just like that didn't sound good at all. And I was still learning how to scream, kind of, and sing at the same time. So all three of those songs were, uh, I guess, progressions. Like from not knowing how to do something to I kind of get it to now it's a little bit easier.
So what
But
was like the order that was written then of the songs?
uh, Too Close for Missiles was written about at the same time as Utah, but they were both started out with by two different people. Mike Bryant started out writing Utah, which is why it starts out with a metal guitar riff,
Yeah.
and Too Close for Missiles starts out with kind of a tappy kind of ambient sound. You can kind of see that the songs are in two different directions,
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
and not really sure how they came about the third song. It was a mixture of both because they finally kind of found their groove where they could write together. Because you have to find your harmony with another guitar player; it won't work at all.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But I think that was the best version of those two writing together before Mike left.
Yeah, but that makes sense.
And ER wrote "This Is Your Way Out." He wrote that entire album, guitar
Really?
wise, by himself. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I thought like, cause like in the I bought the CDs, all of them. In it you kind of see Madison like he always also guitars. I guess he just recorded that then. I don't know.
ER tracked and recorded, and then Madison came a little bit later. So I think he was kind of to come in and help a little bit, play live shows.
Okay.
But writing, I watched ER just push those songs out. So I mean, he was a huge part of it. Him and Lucas together, just I watched them map those songs out. I knew they were going to be amazing. Just you know, with or without me.
Yeah, it makes sense then that you would. I mean, I can definitely see him recording both. I mean, based off like what they've written recently, yeah, it's not out of question that he would probably record both parts if he had to.
Yeah, he did really well. Definitely for one guitar player, it's a tough
Yeah,
job.
yeah, read really well. I guess that kind of leads to my next question. I don't know if you ever heard, but like Madison, when he left the band, he went back to Roslyn. I don't know if he had Roslyn before or after, but he wrote this song called "The New Utah,"
Okay.
and I don't know if you ever listened to that one, but to me, sonically, it sounds kind of like a weird kind of sequel to Utah. It's like the version you guys wrote. It's very. It's not like a ripoff. I can't say it's like, oh, he just kind of took your guys' song and like, did his own thing with it. It just kind of sounds more like a progression of that song. I don't know if you ever listened to it at all.
I haven't, but I definitely will after. I'd like you to send me the link if you don't mind, because
Yeah, I'll
I've never
definitely do
heard
that.
that. I didn't know what he did after, but I met him, and he's such a nice guy. So I definitely would like to hear that. That would be cool.
Yeah, I'll definitely send that your way. And then Chris Roeder, when he left the band, I forget what band he joined after. A Graceful, I think.
Yeah, graceful.
And he recorded a song called, I think, Armageddon.
Yeah.
So was that song or
I mean, that was just a song title I had. They took bits and pieces of my lyrics. There are some songs with little tiny bits and pieces of my lyrics. Armageddon was one of those songs, like Utah, I'm Taller.
Mhm.
I didn't take song titles seriously. So it was originally Armageddon Out of Here, and they just changed it to Armageddon. Lyrically, don't think it's the same thing. I don't even think it's the same song at all, honestly. I haven't gone back to look. There's just a line or two that might be mine. 90% of it's by Rotor.
that makes sense? Yeah, that just when you said the name right now, Armageddon, I was like, okay, there's a weird connection there. Not sure if there's anything related, but yeah, I guess that makes sense then. I guess let's move on. I guess I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about like, Corsets or Cages. Anything weird we might not know?
Uh, our first tour was 30 days
Wow.
as a band. I don't know what we were thinking. it was so awesome to do. But 30 days as your first tour, it was with the Devil Wears Prada too, so it was such a learning experience to be able to actually meet those guys because I love them. You know, when I was playing music, that's what I was listening to. So to be able to see those guys and meet them and see them every day was crazy. But a
Yeah,
lot of people don't realize that you know, our hometown didn't really support us
really.
at all. And it was the way we looked, the way we dressed, the type of music we were playing. People were more into what you would call traditional hardcore or punk,
Hmm.
uh, screamo, post-hardcore, things like that. What you know wasn't happening. Either just wasn't happening, and the old school guys kind of weren't really cool with it. So we had a hard time playing shows with punk bands. We didn't really
I can
fit
see
in too
that.
well. So
I can see that. I'd say even like now, there's still like a bit of a stigmatism attached to like playing, I don't know, heavy metalcore stuff. You know,
yeah,
I mean, I think it's a lot more
especially.
acceptable now, but definitely I can see why at that time when it's like I feel like that was maybe like the beginning of this kind of music.
hmm
I can definitely
it
see
was
why all those would be.
Chiodo, the Chiodos era. What is it? All's well that ends well. Under Oath, they're only chasing safety. And so it was all that era. So people were just like, oh, another Under Oath band. Diet Under Oath. I think that's what people called us, was like Diet Under Oath.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, that's awesome. Under Oath's great. That's
Yeah,
fun.
I can kind of see that being a compliment. Then yeah, yeah, I didn't know that. Well, was there any like other bands we might know that you like might have played with besides Devil Wears Prada?
Um, so far back, it's actually hard to remember. Funny story was playing in Phoenix, Arizona, because the Devil Wears Prada, they were are a Christian band,
Yep.
or I don't know if they still are, out like that. But we played at a Satanic bookstore in
That is
Phoenix.
that is strange.
But
That's
they had
pretty
the best
cool, but
best reaction I've ever seen from a crowd. It blew my mind. And
that's awesome.
yeah, so it was cool to be able to see that. But as far as like other bands we played with, I mean, Lydia, bands like that you kind of got to see blow up a little bit later. Sky Eats Airplane and Dance Gavin Dance was getting started. They put out that EP around there too, but we never got to play with them. I didn't really get to play with any cool bands till later on,
All
honestly.
right. Well, since you're talking about later on, I guess we should move on to your next band. Um, well, I don't know. Actually, I guess that's my first question. Were there like any bands you tried to do or anything between Corsets and the Revival Sound?
No, no, I jumped straight into it. Um, I wouldn't I wouldn't say I was upset, but I felt like if I stopped, I didn't know what else to do with my life. So
Okay.
I got better at screaming. I was like, fine, I'm gonna do something heavy. So I had a couple friends that played music, and we tried to write some songs, and eventually we found our sound. I mean, it was a lot easier the second time around. But no, there was nothing in between. Maybe just a couple months.
All right. So how old were you when like this band, I guess, was formed?
21. It was about 21, early 20s, 21.
All right. Um, so all these were just like mutual friends you or like friends you knew from before, or were
Yeah,
these like new guys?
these were just people that played instruments in other bands. Uh, we skateboarded together. We all knew each other that played other instruments. You know, I just knew, and they were actually from my town in Frankfurt, where I'm from.
Hmm.
So um, that we kind of made it work that way. I didn't have to drive to Lexington to band practice, so it was kind of nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Um, all right. Well, I was googling. I mean, I listened to some of your music with Revival Sound a while back, and then I'm pretty sure I might have heard you guys like years back. Um, well, like back when I started, I guess, writing these questions, like I saw that you guys were signed to AMPM Records.
Yeah,
What was that? I've never heard of the label. Like, how did that happen?
it's really odd in independent music. You never know who you can trust. People are always going to sweet talk you. Um, and when you're young and you just want to get signed, which, you think that when you get signed, you make it, and that's not even really a thing. Really, all they did was press, and they helped us out. Definitely not disrespecting them. They were good friends first before they started a label specifically just to help us.
Okay.
Um, so it's kind of weird. I think one of them played drums in a band called Staple, an old school Christian band.
Hmm.
So I mean, they've been around for a while, and they knew our guitar player. They heard our music, and we needed help putting it out. So that I mean, they started AMPM Records to help. I think they already maybe had another band they were working with, but they were really all about pressing and releasing out EPs for bands for cheap. It's kind of how that worked.
All right, that's good. Um, did you guys like write the EP before you guys were signed, or were you guys signed and then you guys recorded it? How did that
Uh,
happen?
I'd say, from what I can remember, the first EP we put out, we had half the songs written, and then the other half we were like, crap,
All
we got
right.
to write three more songs. So that's really what happened. And I think uh, we didn't put that much out. The last song we put out was I think, the best song because we had finally found that groove you find in a band when you write together.
Mhm.
You finally can, you know, you don't even have to talk. You can just sit there. The bass player, the drummer, the guitar players, it just seems like they're all reading each other's minds. And, you know, we'd been playing for 3 years maybe together. So that last song, I think it's called Shotgun and the Boys in Blue, was the last song we ever wrote together. And we kind of split shortly after that.
Okay. So, um, was the writing process like similar to like Corsets? Where like they'd start writing and then you'd kind of do your own thing, or this time was it like would you start something?
No, they would usually start with the guitar players already had some kind of idea, and the drummer would kind of, click along. Bass usually kind of comes whenever, we had a good bass player, and he kind of could just flow along with the guitar players, but, I came last. A lot of the times I didn't have a PA, so I couldn't practice. A lot of it was in my head, so I'd be sitting there just trying to write lyrics while they're writing these songs, which actually helped with singing parts because I'd hear the songs 9,000 times in a row.
Yeah.
So I could arrange things a little bit better than, because I never liked recording in the studio. I mean, writing in the studio. I never liked writing in the studio. It stressed me out.
Yeah, it's very. From what I've heard, I've never actually recorded in like a studio setting. It's usually just my room, anywhere else but a
Yeah.
studio, just because I can't afford it generally. Um, yeah, I guess it makes sense why it would be more stressful. You kind of have like you're paid for like a certain period of time. You kind of have to pump it out.
hmm And people are looking at you, you gotta, they recorded all their parts. Now they're waiting on you. And maybe you have half a song written. And as far as lyrics go, they're personal, and you can't just put something out just to put something out. Well, that's how I felt,
Mm.
because, like, there's certain things I wrote that I cringe when I read it, and then there's certain things I wrote that I was happy that I had the time to write it because it got the message across that I wanted to get across because I had time to think about it.
Mm.
Some guys like Johnny Craig can freestyle. He can go into the studio with minimal ideas and blow people's minds. So I mean,
No,
just
yeah, I've heard
different
about
things.
that. I've heard about that. I was watching this or listening to this interview with John Mess of Dance Gave a Dance the Screamer,
hmm
um, where he's talking about how the first time, well, not the first time, but when they started recording Downtown Battle Mountain, um, he just kind of walked into like the vocal booth and just started. He just kind of like let out the chorus part to, I think, Times in Roman,
Yeah,
and like off the top of his head, and just kind of randomly did the chorus part. And like when they finished tracking it, everyone in the studio was just kind of confused, like how he managed to just kind of write it off the top of his head. Just kind of, I mean, the way he said it was just kind of pulled out of his ass, but it was like amazing.
yeah. That he's a freak. That's all I can say. I mean, not a lot of guys have that gift. They
Yeah.
they may be able to sing like that, but to be able to write on the spot, that's another thing. So I've definitely heard stories of him. He doesn't even have to have lyrics. He can pen them out in the studio, and I mean he can write the melodies right there in the booth.
Mm.
I mean I think that's why he's special. He can be in any band he wants, do anything he wants.
Yeah. Yeah. He's definitely. I don't know. I guess I've looked the new vocalist for Dance Gavin Dance, Tilling Pearson. He's called him an enigma. And I definitely have
Yeah,
to agree with that. I'd have to agree with that.
yeah. If you talk to him, definitely an enigma.
Yeah. No, I took a picture with him one time. At this last tour he did with Dance Gavin Dance. Um, I didn't realize it at the time, but I was wearing like this T-shirt from when he was in Dance Game We Dance. It had like his face
Yeah,
on it, and so I took a
right.
picture with him while wearing like the shirt with his face on it. He didn't notice. I didn't either until like after I took
Yeah.
the picture. But that was cool.
No, he's a really interesting guy. I think at the end of the day, he just wants friends. Just like people treat him a very different way. I've he's texted me before, a couple years ago. He's like, "You just want to go skateboard?" And I'm like, "I'll die." I haven't skateboarded in so long, but that's awesome. That's he's that chill, but he's a huge deal too. So like he's really like a big kid sometimes and just wants to not like childish, but sometimes he just wants to go do normal person things instead of sign things and take pictures with people, and you know
Yeah.
it's different. That's why he's an enigma, I think, because he's a talent.
Right. The next thing. So I mean, I've listened to like Emerald stuff a lot. In the inside of like Relativity, they like I think they thank the revival sound inside of it. They think give you guys thanks and like I saw like in that live video I sent you, you're singing with the band, right? You're screaming your part in Utah.
Yeah.
So like at that point, once you were in the revival sound, were you guys like more cool than when like right after the breakup? Was it how far down
Mhm.
the line was that?
This had been a few shows that we had played with him already, and it was just kind of a thing that Johnny would mention it, and the crowd would kind of like the idea, So we would kind of plan it if we played a show together. We
Mm.
would do that, but it was definitely cool, like because when he sings the parts, he sings them 10 times better than I ever could. But the screaming parts, like, you know, it was just kind of an honor to be able to do that next to him. If it doesn't make me sound like too much of a fanboy, but
No, yeah, I think that's reasonable.
the live video that was in I think the one you're talking about is in Berea, Kentucky. Very rowdy. It was a very rowdy place.
Really.
So yeah, it was. You couldn't fit any more people into that room, and it was super fun.
So, I guess that's another. I guess like this is like a separate question, just like a more of a personal one. Like, what's it like? Like, I mean, I guess you toured a bit. You got to visit different cities. What is different about Kentucky as opposed to like, I guess what you would say about like other states, other major cities? What would you say makes it different?
Um, I can't speak for every music scene, but the one that we were from wasn't as welcoming. There were places we played in Phoenix. There were places we played in San Diego where people offer you their house. A guy in Phoenix he didn't know our band. He knew the Devil Wears Prada, but he took us all out to dinner. He knew we're starving. We've
Mm.
been eating the dollar menu, but every state's different, so it's kind of cool to be able to tour almost all the states. But uh, it was just different and actually kind of cool seeing how open people are to bands, even though we're strangers. All they know about us is music, and even better if they do know your band. Because most of the time bands they tour in pairs, so
Yeah,
you get stuck with 12 guys instead of six.
that would make
So
sense. Yeah.
it actually for a little bit you're homeless basically. So it kind of it's kind of nice to see that people are friendly like that. That's what I really liked about it.
So when you guys would like tour, just in general, would you do driving? Would other people do the driving? Would you guys take shifts?
Some people were trusted less with driving. Um, I drove once because I didn't like driving in California. I drove once in California and the trailer came off the
Wow,
van. So I was done. I was done with California and driving. But some
makes
people
sense.
drove a lot. Yeah, some people love to drive, and then other people kind of couldn't do, 16-hour drives, things like that. So we'd have to find ways to split it up. But some guys could do it. Some guys could drive straight, 12 straight hours, and be fine. You just had to have your co-pilot. Your co-pilot's important.
Yeah, I don't think I could do that. Just I don't have the attention span for that or like the patience for it because like I think after like an hour and a half of driving or after an hour, I just kind of need a break. Um,
Yeah.
I think after like generally like 2 to 3 hours of driving and like one day that's just kind of like my cutoff point. Like I don't want to drive the rest of the day. I don't care if I have to walk like a mile or something to get to the next place. I'm done with cars. I'm done with having to deal with other people for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. And then mix in maybe six other people that haven't showered in a week.
Oh god, that's
Ooh.
terrible. We're not gonna
Yeah.
bring up any names, but I have a friend who he's in a band with a guy. I'm also not gonna bring up his name, but this guy, I went to one of their shows because he's a really good friend of mine, the friend I'm talking about, and I support his music. Um, it's not generally, it's more like punk, I want to say. So it's not exactly what I vibe with, but he's my friend.
Right.
I support him in anything he wants to do as far as music goes because I think it's good in that genre. It's just not the genre that I enjoy personally.
hmm hmm
But so I've
Okay.
gone to like, I want to say two of his shows, and um, this friend in particular, like I think everyone knows it. Like even like mutual friends where you don't bring up like the name. It's just kind of we'll be at a show and it's like in a small garage, as most shows are, I guess, in with smaller bands, and um, he just kind of reeks of onion
Yeah.
to the point where like people just kind of make like a little circle around him so that they don't have to be right next to him. And he was telling me about one time when they went like on a 2 week tour that this guy asked to borrow his deodorant, and he was like, "All right, yeah, no." I'm guessing the main reason was because he smelled. Well, like he used it, gave it back to him, he smelled it, and it smelled like onion at that point. Yeah, it was like a strong stench, I guess. And I guess like
Um,
that could definitely, I think, bring down like the whole feel of a tour if you have to deal with someone who smells like onion or just refuses to shower. Well, obviously you can't shower the whole time, but just has very poor hygiene, I guess.
if you get the chance, shower. If you stay at a house and you don't shower, then you're just being a jerk.
Yeah,
But
no, this guy, I guess he lives in a house, so it's not like he doesn't have the opportunity to shower. Like even in his own personal time, does not shower. So
I no, we had a guy that he didn't wear socks ever with
that's
anything.
that's weird. That just
You
sounds
know,
like smelly feet, like waiting to
y-
happen.
yeah, smelly feet and like Vans, and it just kind of traps the smell in there because your foot's just kind of blocking. It's like a
Yeah,
vacuum, so he
yeah,
takes the shoe off in the van, and then no one can breathe.
yeah, definitely. I
It,
know that
you
feeling.
know, it makes people argue. It's why so many bands have so many member changes, and I think a lot of it has to do with I'm not going to say a majority, but a lot of it has to do with hygiene. Smelly guy in the band, personal bickering between people in the band, and
Yeah, no.
writing in
What
a
I've heard a
van.
lot is that whenever people like a band says that it's musical differences, it's usually not. It's probably like a more personal thing that's going on, or like it's just clashing of people for different reasons. I'd have to guess there's like some truth to that.
Failure to communicate is a big one, where they won't talk about it. They just kind of passive aggressive say things. Maybe sometimes people don't really just sit down and talk. they talk to the other members amongst each other, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I'd have to agree with that. So, going through like one of the pages I was going through, so like I saw that you guys in the Revival Sound you had one member change, which was the bass. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Was there any like? I mean, I don't want to like pry too like if it was too personal, you don't have to answer. But what was the reason behind that? Was there like a musical difference, like actual musical difference, not the musical difference, or it was a personal thing?
Well, his name is Garrett. Garrett was our first bass player. He he couldn't keep his grades up. He
All
was
right.
still in high school and he was touring and his he got in trouble. So, you know, we he got in trouble right before a 3 week tour. And we'd asked him, you know, can you try? Can you just try like, you know, not fail all your classes? And you know, he didn't. So we started working with another bass player and you know, he was cool about it. He understood. And we all still remain friends. He still came to the shows, but it's you know, at the time we it wasn't so much about friendship as it was trying to
Progressing as a
put
band.
right, trying to write the best music you can possibly write. So, which sometimes you look back, it's not always the best idea, you know.
Yeah, I guess you just kind of do it the best with what you have. Well, like at the knowledge you have at the time. You know.
Yeah,
So you were saying that was off the three tracks you guys recorded was like off the first EP. So how many like EPs did you guys record as a band?
I think two.
Two.
Yeah, I believe two. And then there was a song that we had an EP ready for that we only released one song off of it, and then we broke up. And
All
then
right.
the engineer didn't send us the other songs,
Really?
so we don't.
That's
Yeah, we don't have them.
that's weird. Um,
It, you know, that happens.
I guess that kind of leads into the next question. When did you guys decide to disband as a group?
Ooh, we played at Battle of the Bands, and it it seemed rigged. Like it seemed like everyone knew each other, and the band, you know, we obviously didn't win, but it's for like a spot at Cornerstone, things like that, equipment, money. So it was kind of a big deal for us. So we lost. When we, you know, everyone lost who didn't win, but
Hmm.
our drummer pretty much just quit like right after. Super emotional about it, and we didn't really know what else to do. You know, we couldn't replace the drummer, and you know the drummer quit, so then the bass player quit, so then the guitar player quit. So that's really just what kind of happened. One by one, everyone just kind of dropped off.
Makes sense. Do you remember who won that one? The Battle of the
Um,
Bands?
I honestly couldn't tell you. They were like a very Christian burden of a day,
Wow,
like
that's
super,
interesting.
like super crazy,
That's weird, I guess, is the nicest thing I can think of to describe that. It's just weird, I guess, thinking of
like
that.
an 80s burden of a day, if that makes sense.
That is super strange.
Hmm. I don't
Um,
remember their name though, just what they sounded
I
like.
know I'd like to hear them just because that just sounds like super weird, like something I'd listen to and just be confused by.
I'll try to find it for you, and it's been a while.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. That'd be real cool to include on the links or something if you find that.
Absolutely.
Um, I guess I kind of okay. I guess is there anything like of note that you'd like to bring up about like the Revival Sound of your time with them? Anything that you like a really good memory, something funny that you'd like to bring up before we
Oh, how awful our tours were.
really?
The tours with Corsets were amazing. We had money, financial backing. If things went wrong, we were okay. We could go to a hotel, but in the Revival Sound, we didn't have that. So if things went wrong, we were touring in a like an '87 Ford's 16 passenger van,
Okay.
and we had all of our equipment in it. We didn't even have a trailer. So it broke down a few times. We got stranded a few times. Those aren't funny, like fun times, but it's times like that where, you're barbecuing in a Walmart parking lot,
Yeah.
and that's, and you bond that way.
Yeah,
And honestly, anytime
you kind
anytime
of
we
just make
stayed,
the best out of the, I guess, a really bad situation.
yeah, and anytime we met somebody cool that let us stay with them, and we got to go do something we never done before. We stayed in an old church that was a huge old church, and we just got to kind of wander around. They had a big music room, and kind of got to go in and mess around with music. You know, I got to play drums. You know, so it was kind of just chaos, but little stuff like that, just meeting new people.
Is there any like bands you'd want to like I guess like same question as earlier, like that you would of note that you'd like can bring up that you can remember that you played with?
Oh, Burden of a Day is one of them. Dead and Divine, Lower Definition, Conditions, uh, Dance Gavin Dance,
Really?
Emerosa. Yeah.
Was this once they
Uh,
replaced Johnny or?
uh, it was with Kurt.
Okay.
It was with Kurt. But we played, or this was towards when Johnny was about to leave the band too. So we played another time with them. It was in Louisville at a Bulldog Cafe. I think it was called Bulldog Cafe. I'm not sure, but yeah, a lot of metal bands. We got put with a lot of heavy bands. Like we played with the Ataris,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Makes sense since you guys were like, a bit heavier. From what I remember listening to, it was a lot more scream filled than like stuff with corsets.
hmm I, if I got kicked out of a band for wanting to do heavy stuff, I might as well do that.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
Do you know Vanna? Do you remember Vanna?
I don't think I do. I don't think I do.
Um, that was one of the other bands we toured with, or not toured with, but played with. But they were super fun, super nice guys. I See Stars.
I know them. Yep.
Yeah.
I guess like kind of going back to like the Johnny Chris thing. Like when you did you sing Utah with both live or was it just like once Johnny was the frontman for the band?
I never did it when Chris was in the band. I only did that with Johnny, and yeah, that was a couple years later. They actually would ask if I would do the screaming parts because Johnny didn't really like to do that. I don't think it was good for him anyways. But I did Casablanca with him too, which I really like. I really like that song a lot more, honestly.
I enjoy both. I like both.
I
Um,
appreciate that.
yeah, no problem.